Absolutely nothing beats windshield time. Welcome back to Dan the Road Trip Guy, a podcast where we have candid conversations about life lessons learned on the road. I'm your host, Bimmer enthusiast and road trip extraordinaire, Dan Neal. And now, on to the show. My guest today is Stingray Robb. Stingray is an Indy Car driver. You might say this is our second lap around. We spoke last July when he was racing in the Indy Lights Series, where he went on to finish second in that championship. I encourage you, if you want to know more about Stingray, to go back to that episode last July and take a listen when we talk about more personal things. This year around, we're going to talk about how his season's going, his running at the Indianapolis 500. Stingray is on a road trip today. He's traveling to Iowa for testing. Welcome to the show, Stingray.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Appreciate you being here, taking the time. I know you're a busy guy. We're 8 races into 2023 in the Indy Car Series. How's it going from your perspective?
Oh, man, it's been an interesting year so far. To say that it's been a learning experience, I think, would sell it a little short. Yeah, I mean, I think that we're in a good spot with the team. The team has got a lot of experience behind Dale Coyne. It's nice to have someone with his level of experience, bringing up young drivers or new drivers to the series, and also engineers and mechanics and everything else. He seems to have a knack for picking out good talent and kind of showing them which road to take to success. But yeah, having him as our team leader and David Malukas as my teammate has been really good as well, just because he's got so much recent rookie experience being a rookie last year. He had some good results, and neither one of us have had the year that we wanted so far. We're still waiting for those good results to come, but moments of goodness and a lot of attrition still, but we're moving on.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking back a little bit, and you were running up in I think 15th in Texas, so that was good. And you survived all the concrete in Detroit. How was that?
Detroit was crazy. I think going into the weekend, we did a little bit of simulator time, and we expected it to be very bumpy, but it was actually bumpier in person and narrower in person than what I was expecting. It was interesting. I'm glad that they're already working on some changes there for next year, and hopefully it'll be a better racetrack than your return.
Yeah, it looked kind of crazy on TV. Like you guys were bouncing around everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Indy 500, I think that's probably on every racer's list to race there, and it was just really fun to see you race there, having watched you over all these years. And it's like the only guy I really know in IndyCar racing that'll actually talk to me. So that was just fun to see. So to talk to you, and most of my guests are not racing fans. I think you helped introduce a few of them last year when we talked, and people were like, "Well, that was pretty cool. I think I'm going to watch some racing now." So that was fun. But share with my listeners the rookie test you have to go through before you actually get to run at the Indianapolis Speedway.
Yeah, so every year they do rookie orientation, as it's called. And it's just for anyone that's new to running the Indy 500. And they do the Indy 500 specifically because the race itself is very unique and it's very challenging because you're doing speeds of over 230 miles an hour on 2.5 mile 4-corner track with low banking. And so there's not much room for error when there's concrete walls, running the outside line there. And so the rookie orientation essentially is a 3-stage deal. The first stage, you do 15 laps from 205 to 210 miles an hour. And then once you check that off the list, you do 210 to 215 miles an hour. Once you check that off, you go to the third stage, which is 215 plus for that 15 laps. And you have to go through those 3 stages before you're allowed to even run in the qualifying for the Indy 500. Now, it's kind of funny because these Indy cars these days, they're made to go 230 miles an hour. They're made to go fast. And so when you're going at those slower speeds, you have to work on getting the balance right through the turn. And so you're actually lifting on the straightaway and then power down through the corners. So you're not getting loose because at that lower speed, you have less downforce, first off. And when you're not on the power, it loads the nose of the car, so it can create some instability. Doing those lower speeds from like 205 to 210 miles an hour was actually probably more difficult than it was doing the 215 plus.
It gets a little scary when the car gets loose, right, at that speed.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not a very comforting feeling.
As a young guy who always wanted to race there, what was that first lap like?
Oh man, I don't even know how to describe it. I think it's kind of like the frog on boiling water. And they kind of slowly turn the temp up on you. And then once you get there, you're like, okay, this is pretty cool. And then you step back out and watch the other guys go around at 230 miles an hour, and it takes your breath away, realizing you're doing the same thing. But yeah, it was really cool. You know, the first few days around that place is one of those things. But yeah, it kind of takes your breath away because you don't realize how fast you're going until you take a half second to, look to the side of you. Because at those speeds, you're looking so far down the road. I mean, we're doing 300 feet a second. That 300 feet a second comes at you pretty quick when you're looking, 3/4 of a mile away. And so it doesn't seem all that fast when you're looking that far ahead, but you take a peek around and you realize, okay, it seems like you're going light speed in this thing.
So then you moved on. So you passed your rookie test and then move into the month of May. Of course, we had the Grand Prix jumping forward. Then you had some practice. I really wanted to talk to you about qualifying because that's just the fun part of the 500, I think, to watch you guys qualify. Not the easiest thing in the world to be out there by yourself running 4 laps and trying to make them all perfect.
Absolutely. And, these cars, when you're running in clean air, it's not near as exciting as it is running in traffic and doing all that with the aero wash and everything. Qualifying is a bit of its own animal in the sense that you got to tune the car to get free on its own. And when I say free, that means that kind of looseness in the rear end so that the rotation happens naturally and you're not having to steer as much in the corners. We thought that we had a pretty good car in traffic, but that doesn't mean much for qualifying.
Exactly.
And so we were in a position, unfortunately, that we had to do the last chance qualifier, and that's pretty nerve-wracking because as a driver, you're doing everything you can. We did 3 runs on qualifying day. I'm flat out for 10 miles. I'm pushing the car to its absolute limits, and sometimes the speed's just not there. It doesn't take much to make it just miss that little bit of speed. And when you're dealing with a couple miles an hour, it's a big difference. I'm joking now, but I think that I got more experience than most rookies do during the rookie season. So you can call me quite the veteran now. I got a lot more seat time with the last chance qualifier and everything else, but man, my nerves are made of steel now, I think.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what it was like. I was watching from home and, we were like, oh, come on. Just for my listeners who don't know, so there were 34 cars. That meant somebody's going home without a ride for Sunday. You were in that lineup of 4. You went out that last day. How were you feeling?
Oh, man. Stressed to the max. It's one of those things where you don't want to be in that position. When you're going around in those 4 laps, you kind of lose sense of that pressure. It's one of those things where it builds and builds and builds and builds, and you look around at everyone around you and they all feel it too. But once it's over, it's such a sigh of relief. And I think having that moment of realization of like, we're going to be in the Indy 500 after going through all that stress was probably better for me because it gave me a realization of what it means to be in the Indy 500. It gave me an appreciation for the show of it all, the experience of it all, and just to be able to be one of those 33 cars. There's only one guy that has to go home, but no one wants to be that one guy. It was definitely, I don't know if you could say best experience or worst experience of my life, career-wise, just because there's so much that's going on around it, so many emotions. And yeah, it was cool that once we finally did those 4 laps and got ahead of the other guys, that we could, sit there and wait for that clock to run out, make sure that we made it in the 500.
Well, it's those trials in life that make us better, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's the James 1 Bible verse that I keep referring to. It seems like it comes to life so much in my racing career, but it's consider it pure joy when you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. So let perseverance finish its work so that it may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. And, that consider it pure joy is kind of an oxymoron because, one of those things like that, where you're in a position that you're kind of fighting for your career and struggling. It's not a good time to be cheering it on, right? It doesn't feel like a moment to be saying, yay, we get to struggle a little bit today.
Yeah.
So yeah. We did. And I think that looking back at it, we can be thankful for it because it taught us a lot.
Yep. It'll just make you better. That's for sure. You got to, so you got through qualifying, you got through Fast Friday, Carb Day, and then Saturday night. You get any sleep on Saturday night before race day?
I did. I slept like a baby. They ran us pretty ragged there during the week in between qualifying and the race, with interviews and everything else. We were getting up at 7 a.m. for our first interview at 7:30 or whatever else it was. and then running us until about 8:45 that night. A little over a 12-hour day, just doing interviews and media events and production deals. And so I was ready for a nap, it seemed like. And Saturday night was that first time I really got to rest. You're almost waiting for the 500 to happen for 3 weeks. And so finally getting into Sunday, you're like, okay, it's here. We've been preparing for this for so long. So it's kind of a relief just to get through it.
Lots of stuff on Sunday morning, but then you get strapped in the car and start those engines. Any butterflies still going at that point? Yeah. Are you pretty calm?
No, absolutely all the butterflies in the world. Like, I was careful about what I ate because I was afraid I might see it later.
Yeah, sure.
And, it's one of those things where I think Simon Pagenaud said it, is that you see this as a rookie and you're like, wow, this is amazing. And I'm really nervous. And it doesn't get any easier. If anything, it gets harder because you understand the pressure of it all. That's not super comforting for a rookie that had to just go through that. But man, okay, well, I'll take that and I'll learn from it. But, I think it's so true. It's just there's so much of the show that goes on around it. It's so cool. But as a driver, you almost can't enjoy it because your butterflies are just fluttering around the whole time and you're nervous and you almost want to just hop in the car and get going. Once the helmet's pulled on, the nerves kind of go away and you can kind of switch on into this is my job mode, which is good.
Yeah, I'm going to be here for the next couple hours. I better focus in, right?
Exactly.
It's kind of hard to believe when you think about it, going those speeds for that time. And, the first, so many laps were for green and you guys were just flying along, setting a fast pace.
Yeah.
So what was that? So green flag flies and you head down into turn one. What was that like? Right.
Really on the throttle and I'm still getting sucked into the corner. So, and there's garbage flying around and dust everywhere. It doesn't matter how good they clean the track. There's so much air getting pushed around by those cars, so much speed that there's no sort of cleanliness, it seems like, and it all just goes to chaos. And that was cool to kind of see and experience. And I had fair warning from Dale and David telling me, just be calm, be patient, because it's all going to go crazy on the start. So, all right, sounds good. But once we settle into a groove, it was pretty okay. We were dealing with some tire issues during the race there. And, I think that for the first two stints, we were just trying to figure out how to solve those. And yeah, I mean, we were struggling right from the start, it seemed like.
Yeah, but you stayed out there and you were running, and I don't know if you want to talk about how it ended. And I was going to ask you before we started, did you want to comment on it? Just unfortunate, but, it's racing also.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think any racer is going to be disappointed with the result we had. Only doing 92 of the 200 laps to go out racing with someone that was laps down was pretty frustrating. And, I think my post-race interview, I blamed the other driver, and I shouldn't have done that. I mean, I was angry, and that's about as angry as you're ever going to see me. It's just because as drivers, you spend 3-4 weeks, if not longer, thinking about this one race, and you're working towards it. And we'd gone through the last chance qualifiers and had the emotions of it all, and to have it cut short, you feel like you've been robbed. I think looking back, it was a matter of we were dealing with those tire issues from the beginning of the race, and it was late in the stint, and there was marbles on the outside line, and I'd have been 10 laps sooner on a next stint on new tires, we wouldn't have been in the wall. But just the way it worked out, we were in the wall, and our day was cut short.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. And as you said, emotions, when it happens, and we see that. Had some fun emotions up at Road America this weekend with a couple of the veterans, so that was fun to watch.
Yeah, Road America is a track that I love, and I joke around saying it's a real racetrack again, which is kind of funny because, after Detroit and Indy, those are two tracks I've never been to and were fully new to me. And going back to Road America felt a little bit like home. Being on a permanent road course and somewhere I've had good experience in the last few years at it. So it was good. We had some decent pace during the race, and just didn't have caution flags fall our way necessarily. Some strategy calls that just missed out a little bit, but it's all part of the game in IndyCar. It could be anyone's day. You look at guys like Scott Dixon, started way back in the field and finished fourth.
Yeah, it's
pretty impressive to see someone like that just do everything right and check all the boxes off, and they fly up through the field. I think our day is coming on permanent road courses. We're going to get things figured out hopefully here pretty soon, and I'm enjoying it. One of those laps, I was following Wheel Power out at Road America, and I was staying with him, and I didn't really think about it at the time. I was just thinking about how do I get around this guy. I'm like, man, he's fast.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I can see him picking up a little speed here and a little speed here, and then he's beating me here and here. And so I was trying to figure out how to set up a pass, and I realized, I'm like, that's Will Power. Like, I'm racing Will Power.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of a cool moment of like, wow, okay, I can't believe I'm actually doing this, and I'm staying up with the guy.
Exactly. There you go. Stingray Robb chasing after Will Power. Two of my favorite names in IndyCar, by the way.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, that's great. Speaking, you got, so looking forward, you got 9 races, I believe, to go. Is there a favorite track that we're going to the rest of the year?
Yeah, for sure. I love the West Coast swing just because being from Idaho, those are kind of my stomping grounds out west from my karting days. So Portland is a track that I've had decent experience at and qualifying on pole there in the junior series and raced pretty well there. And to go back and kind of have it be my home track, only a few hours down the road from where I'm from. It's nice to have friends and family out there. And then the finale being at Laguna Seca, I mean, I don't know how it can get much better than that. The corkscrew and with the new pavements going out down there, I think it'll be really good. And the racing should be nice and tight. And the field of drivers that we got, I mean, it makes every weekend a new adventure. You never know what you're going to get. And there's so much talent and depth in the field. I think it's cool to see the racing. It's not just, the front 3 or 4 cars. It's the front 25, 26, 27 cars that are fighting now. I mean, every race is fun. Every race is a new adventure, and I'm looking forward to them all.
And then, not to mention, you had an Indy Lights win at Laguna Seca last year.
Yeah, I do tend to like the tracks that I went at. So Laguna Seca is one of my favorites.
We should be at Mid-Ohio, so hopefully I'll get to meet you there.
Very good, very good. Yeah, Mid-Ohio is another track that I love. And having to be on the 4th of July is going to be kind of fun. It's always a good time of year.
So here's a question for you. You're a rookie, one of 2 from Indy Lights, if you and
Yep.
Peterson. And then are there any veterans that have come alongside you and just said, hey, Stingray, let me give you a little advice here?
No, everyone kind of stays in their corners. David, my teammate, he has been very good at, telling me, hey, watch out for this. And like I said, with his recent rookie experience, there's things that I can learn from him, mistakes that he made last year that I can watch out and try and not make this year. Successes as well. The good things that he did that I can try and do. It's nice to have someone that has kind of gone up through the ladder at a similar pace. And, we finished second in the Indy Next Championship in back-to-back years. And so for us to have the kind of similar resumes and experience levels, it's good to kind of direct the team down the same path. And I think that, we haven't seen the fruits of our labor yet, but we're working on it. We're 2 young drivers. I think we're the 2 youngest in the series. And it's funny to call him the veteran of the team, but I think that David's talented and he's got good enough head on his shoulders that we can figure it out between the 2 of us. I was
going to comment, you guys are the 2 youngest in the series. Plenty of time to improve and get better.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, I think one thing that Dale does a good job of, like I said, is picking out young talent and kind of training them up. And that's something I said at the beginning of the season. I thought that would be our advantage, is that he can kind of mold us and shape us into the drivers that he wants us to be. And this might not be a 1-year program. We might not see the results of it until a couple years down the road or whatever else. We'll see what the future has in store for us. But, I think that we're building a good foundation for the future.
We're going to look forward to, someday I'll get to interview you after win the Indy 500. You have to
I like that.
Have to come back. Hey, well, that's really what I wanted to talk to you about, and just really wanted my listeners to learn a little bit more about racing from a guy who's out there doing it, and particularly the 500, which is a very special race every year. Thank you for your time, and tell people how to find you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm on most social medias at Stingray Robb, and Robb is with 2 B's, so ROBB. And then my Twitter handle is actually a little bit different. It's at Sting_Ray_Robb. If you guys want to follow along on the Indy Car Series, we're broadcast on the Peacock TV app and on the NBC Sports Network, and you can follow along online as well at IndyCar.com.
Thank you again, Stingray.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Dan the Road Trip Guy, and we look forward to having you back again next time. In the meantime, if you want to find me, you can find me on the internet at Danny, D-A-N-N-Y, Neal, Neal.com. Until we meet up again, keep having conversations and keep driving.